Hello, my loves. Butterfly Free here. On my healing journey, I learned the difference between fear and love, the trauma self and the true self. And my only way to the true self was healing the trauma self because the trauma self constantly wants to be fed. And the only thing I can think of that reminds me of my trauma self is the movie Little Shop of Horrors. The little shop of horrors, call a cop. Little shop of horrors, oh, 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 no. Y'all remember that? Feed me Seymour. The plant was talking to the man, telling the man to feed him. So the trauma self is talking to the true self saying, hey, feed me. Otherwise, the trauma self is going to be in front of the true self, and you will always be speaking from the trauma self until you heal through and quiet down the trauma self to get to the true self, baby. So, what I had to do was address like what is going on in me? Why am I making these type of choices? Why do I make these type of decisions? And it wasn't me making decisions from the true self. It was my trauma self making those decisions because those were cycles, beliefs, and patterns from my past and from my wounds. Because I had childhood wounds and I also had wounds from my marriage. So all of that was part of how I created this personality, and my emotions and thoughts and beliefs and behaviors all stemmed from those wounds from the trauma self. So as I transformed and I was healing through this and I went through this rebirth, I had to address all of the wounds that created those choices that I made, those beliefs and patterns, and I had to break that down. So before you can actually experience this true love, you have to heal through your trauma. Otherwise, you will always have this fear that people will not see you, fear that people will not choose you, fear that people will not validate you, accept you, and approve you. So you conform. You adapt to every environment that you go in. You wear a mask, and it's not you, it's the trauma self because the trauma self needs to be fed. And the way you feed the trauma self is from other people outside of yourself. So you are feeding the trauma self with other people to meet your needs, the needs of the trauma self, because baby, it's part of you, it's part of who you are. And that's something that's going around in a cycle, in a loop, because you can never fulfill yourself through other people. And after you go through that healing, then you are introduced to the true self. And you have the opportunity to experience what true love is. And you see that love is not out there, it's in you. And I met that type of love when I grew in my relationship with God. And that's something that we all can do, we all can experience. But you have to give yourself that opportunity to address the trauma self. And it is hard, it's not easy because that means that you have to look at yourself. And what I think of, I was a type of person that I always loved, I always prioritized love. And I was loving from an unhealed place, that trauma that I had. But I tried to love people unconditionally without seeing myself. So just imagine somebody with a gunshot wound, they leaking out blood, and they trying to help somebody else that had just fallen and scraped their knee. And the person that scraped their knee, they not telling you, baby, you leaking some blood. You got blood dripping from a large wound. They not saying that because they don't see you. All they see is what you doing for them. So as you providing them with this care for their knee, the scrape that they have on their knee, you leaking blood. You have bigger wounds that you need to address. And that person is not telling you because they don't see you and you don't see you. But God see you and he saw me and he helped me to address that wound to where I needed to heal inside out. I couldn't just put a band-aid on top of a gunshot wound. I had to heal that wound inside out and I had to transform myself inside out. And that it introduced me to a whole new love in myself. So now I can attract healthy love rather than wounded trauma love, toxic love. So Baby, the way to true love is breaking down those barriers of the trauma self, breaking down that fear so that you can experience what true love is in you and with God. And that's all I have for today. Make it a great day.